great to see you. I know it's been a long time since I did one of these videos, and I just want you to know I've been thinking about y'all. I've been fishing, I've been working, I've been making breads, and I've been doing a lot of things in the kitchen. And I just recently, the old dough Wrangler, went out on a fishing trip, and I caught me a whole mess of fish. And I just wanted to show you, I thought I would do a little demonstration of how I like to cook and clean and eat my fish after I catch them. It was a beautiful day. I caught a ton of them fish. I had a great old time. And I'm going to show you just a little departure from the bread and the dough and show you that I'm a little bit more than one-dimensional and I can do a lot of things in the kitchen. All right, so first I got me this beautiful fish. I'm going to start by making a cut on him. God, son of a gun! God, doggies! God! All right, cut. Let's just make a sourdough bread video. All right, y'all. Sorry for that unfortunate incident. When that snakehead come alive on the counter, I decided it's time just to switch over and do what we do best here at the Dough Wrangler and just make some bread. So what I'm gonna do first, I wanna show you start to finish how to do your sourdough bread starter, making bread, feeding your starter, taking care of it, and how to go about it once you get one of these starters from doughwrangler.com. So those of you who already have one of these starters know this is a very simple one that is easy to use. What I really like about this is it's low maintenance. And in spite of the fact that you all only see me on these videos, so I might look like I'm high maintenance because I'm always like perfect in all my outfits and everything. But actually, I like things to be pretty low maintenance if I can do it. So this is what I like about this starter. You only have to feed this once a week. Once it's established and firm, you just do this process I'm doing right here for one time weekly, and then you can make your bread whenever you want. So we start off with this starter, which is 300 grams worth. We're going to take a chunk out of it and put it on our scale. So on our scale, I'm going to turn my scale on and zero it with the bowl. So we're at 0 kilos right now. And I want to put 50 grams of starter in there. That's 47. So let's see what we can do to make that just as perfect as we can. And this 50 grams is also what you need to actually make your bread. So there you go. We got 50 grams of starter in there. And then I take the rest of this here in the jar and I plop it in here. And I'm going to show you what to do with that here shortly. How we're going to make bread out of that. I usually let it go in here. I let it sit in here for a week in the refrigerator. And I make bread out of that the following week. This is also what you use if you want to make extra sourdough starter to give to your friends. All right, so what I want to do, 50 grams of starter and 100 grams of water. So I just pour that in until I get to 150. That's just simple math. If you want to learn how to do that math, you just call me. I'll help you through it. Now, what I like to do when I wash my jar every week, I do this on Sundays. I do not use any antibacterial products, no antibacterial soaps. All you got to do is rinse that jar out, get it nice and just clean of any old residue. But you don't want to kill that environment that you're feeding all your starter in. Alrighty, so the next thing I do is I take this and just whoop it up. Pretty easy to make a mess doing this, so you want to be careful. Mrs. Wrangler to come out here. See, we got slop all over the counter. You don't even know what could happen. You got to be careful. Alrighty, so that gets whooped up right about like that. Some people use other implements than a fork. A fork is good for me. Some people use a chopstick or something else to kind of whoop that up just to break it up into little pieces. I haven't found that it's too humongous of a deal. All right, got back on the scale there. We're at 150 grams. We're going to take whole wheat flour, and we use 150 grams of whole wheat flour. So it's 50 grams of starter, 100 grams of water, and 150 grams of whole wheat flour. And that just gives that starter, old Doris, something to eat. All righty, we at 287. Oh, right there, 300. All All right, now I just mix that up. And it's going to make you a pretty doughy starter here, and that's what keeps it. That's what keeps that all week long in your refrigerator. If you use one of them active starters, a lot of people are using, it's a little fancier technique, but to use that, you got to feed that once every day or every 12 hours, etc. This one, you just feed it once a week. You reactivate it in the evening before you want to make bread, and you're good to go. So I just smush that up so everything's a little hydrated. And I take it and plop Doris back in her jar, put the lid on top. And in the summertime, I just leave it right out here on the counter. In the wintertime, I'll put it up on top of the stove where it's just a little bit warmer. That's all you gotta do. Now you sit that out for anywhere from 5 to 9 hours till you see it rising up, getting air bubbles. Actually, I got an example right over here. You'll rise up like that. It'll rise up about to there and get all bubbly. And that's how you know that it's ready for action. You stick it in the refrigerator and save it for the next week. And then I take this piece right here, and this is what I'm gonna make my bread out of. So tonight, before I make bread tomorrow, I'll take these hunks and I keep this for up to a week. And I'll make bread out of it the following day. All right, I'll see you right back here this evening to make our starter soup. All right, y'all, after that disaster with the fish, I decided we're just gonna go on and make some sourdough bread. You know how we did our starter. You saw how we did our starter feeding, and this is what we got left over from every time we feed our starter. So if you got one of my starters and you've been feeding it, you'll get this left over every time. Now, when you go to make your sourdough bread, all you gotta do is 50 grams of this starter. But because I have so much extra every week, I just use it all, and that works out real good. So I would recommend just use what you have, and you can do it by feel and by hand. Now, a lot of people, they get fancy. They get the numbers and they get the measurements and the weights, and a lot of bakers is like that. I don't tend to do that like that. I do things by feel. I want this to be fun for me and everyone around me, so I just do it the best I can. So the first thing you want to do the night before you want to make your bread, you want to get your starter livened up. The way you do that is you take half of this here, or 50 grams is all you need. If you want to make a lot more loaves of bread, you can just use 50 grams. That's all it takes. And then you put her in here. I'm going to make 2 loaves of bread. I'm make one that has some little mix-ins for y'all. It'll be a little treat. And then I got one that's just plain old sourdough bread. So y'all know what to do when you get to the end of it. Do however you want to do it. So what I do here is I take 50 grams of this, or whatever you got, and then I put in 2 cups of clean, fresh water. Now, this is important. I don't want you all using no pond water for this, because you get a real kind of musky taste if you use pond water for this. It'll mess your sourdough up. It will be sour, but it ain't gonna be that good. You use fresh water. I use this from the tap. If you got a real clean creek or river at your house, you could use that water. I tend to just use it right out of the tap. Now again, to avoid wasting, I just put the water in here and I shake it up just to clean this out. And then I'll have it ready for next time I feed it. There's one of them. Well, it's not all of it actually. Put the 2 cups. Like I said, 2 cups worth of water, clean, pure, room temperature water. Shake that all up, put it in there. Now, same thing with this one. Now, I already got this cleaned out. I don't really need to do that. So I take my other water, I put it in here. Now, one of the little tips and tricks that I like to use here is I use this here whisk and whoop it up real hard. That'll get you a little bit of air incorporated in there when it's all said and done. That gets you maybe, just in theory, it'll get you a little bit fluffier dough. A little bit bigger air holes and a little bit of life to it. So I'll just whoop it up like this. Get it. I like to get after it a little bit with this whisk, and I just get it, just whoop it down. Get it where it's all mixed up. You don't want any little clumps of that starter up in there. You get that nice frothy top on it. See that? How that go? And I take my other one, and I do the same darn thing with that one. And again, you can make as many loaves as you want with this. You want, 50 grams per. That's all you need. But to me, I just waste not, want not, as they say. So I'll whoop it, whoop it, whoop it, whoop it, whoop it. Get that good froth on the top. All right, now you're ready to put your flour in. Now, there's a lot of people who disagree with this technique because they're a little bit more science-minded. So there's a lot of people who want to do this perfect measurements with weights, different ratios, hydration levels. I do this by hand like I do everything else, just by eyeball. So I take a scoop, I put it in there, I keep whooping it. Same thing here. This is about, I don't know, that's maybe 3/4 of a cup. I put 3 of them in there. That's math that's beyond me. I just do it till I get the consistency that I'm looking for. And the consistency I'm looking for here, this is where I whoop it. Whoop, whoop, whoop. And you want this to be a roughly pudding-like consistency. It's pretty good there. I can put just a little bit more in there. And again, one time you make it a little more runny, one time you make it a little less runny. You get to where you have it, how you want it, how it works for your environment. Okie dokie. I think that's be about good there, I think. That's one of them. Now the other one is going to do the same thing. All right, I'm gonna whoop it now. This one's a little bit thicker than the other one, so we'll see how they look in the morning, and we'll do a little comparison. See how that one's a little bit thicker? It don't really matter that much, I'm telling y'all. I know all of you want to just get it perfect and scientifically dialed in, but that ain't how it works in the dough wranglers world. All right, now what I like to do is I take that. See how I got 2 different consistencies? I got a jiggly one and I got a little bit more liquidy. So we'll take a look at them and see how they turn out in the morning. And you can see if there's a difference or not in your taste. Now, next step. I know y'all thought I was gonna put that. I know y'all thought I was gonna put this on my face and pretend I was robbing you. I ain't gonna do that old trick to you. You already got that one on you. So maybe next time. Cover these up. I got me 2 of them. Cover them up, and then I let these sit the whole night. Then we'll sit out on the counter overnight till tomorrow. We'll pick this up tomorrow and take off. All right, y'all, welcome back. It's the following day, and we're ready to make this here bread. So here's our 2 starters that we livened up last night. We mixed them up, whoop that air in there. This one, I believe, was the thicker of the 2, and this was the thinner. You notice there ain't a whole lot of difference. This rose a little bit higher. It's summertime right now where the Wrangler lives, so we're getting a lot of puffy rise. Now in the wintertime, you see a lot less of that rising and a lot, a lot of bubbles that'll let you know that it's alive. But either one of these would do the trick. Even if it was only half that risen up, it would do the trick. You can believe me, you make bread out of any of that. So we're gonna make 2 loaves today. One loaf is gonna have a little mix-in. It's gonna be a cheddar and jalapeno. The other loaf is gonna be just plain old sourdough bread. So which one do you think we should choose for which? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a tiger by his toe. If he hollered, let him go. My mama said, let's use this one for mixing in. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna wake up, we're gonna put a little salt in this one. Now, when you mix in ingredients into this one, sometimes we'll do one with say an olive or something like capers or something like that. It's got a little salt in it. You don't want to put a lot of salt in it if you're doing that. You just put a little of that juice in there and then you're good to go. But you need a little kick if you're just making regular sourdough. So what you do, you take a little salt, you put it in there, you take your wooden spoon here, and then you start adding flour till you get where it needs to be. So what I do, I start to mix it. Now you see how when I mix that up, you get some strings in there? This is the looser one of the 2. I just start dumping in flour So I get it where it needs to be. Start off like that there. I hope you all had a good night's sleep last night and you're up and rised and ready. All right, this will start to come together into a sticky mess. That's when you know you're kind of getting there. So I'll take this a little bit more. And once I got it running, I take this scraper here. Now this scraper is a tool. I got several of these little tools and tricks that you all can either get or not get. You don't have to use all this, but I find it just a lot easier to use a few of these little trickster tools. And as we go along, if I'm using a special tool, I'll tell you. And if I'm not, I'll tell you what the alternative is to that. All right, so I'll take this scraper, scrape it inside my bowl real good. Just get out all that goodness. And then I start taking that dough like that there. Just smoosh it down, put a little bit of flour on it, and just mix it together. And you want this sourdough to have a little bit of, to make it kind of juicy and moist. You don't want it to be real dry. So less flour really is better. But again, I do this all by feel. There is a way you can do calculations and make hydration levels, and you can get pretty fancy and pretty scientific. Wranglers, not a scientist. He just likes to eat. All right, that's looking pretty decent. A little sticky, just how I like. Now, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna call my friend Pam to come over. She's been a friend of mine for a long time. She helps me with these all the time. When I get in a sticky situation, I call Pam. She come here and help me out. So I give that a little spray on the inside. And I take this here bread. See how it's still pretty sticky? Flour on my hands, just so I can handle it. And I plop it in there, and then just roll it around in my friend Pam a little bit. Put her down there, put her on the old back burner, and put a towel over top of it. Now, next thing we're gonna do is the same thing. This little feller. Now, these mix-ins is not salty, so I'm gonna put a little salt in. And what I'm mixing in this time, again, is jalapenos and cheddar. So I like to take my cheddar and shred it up myself. I use the one in here, box graters. I use this tiny whole side. I feel like that mixes in a little bit better. You can use the big whole side, or even do it in chunks, however you like to have your bread with mixed, but that's how I do mine. I chopped up 1 1/2, 1 1/3, 1 2/3 of jalapeno. I'm gonna mix that in. And then I took the last of the jalapeno and made little slices. I'll show you why here in a minute. It get pretty fancy. All right, I mix that in. And I just take that cheese. This is what's the time that I do my mix-ins. Other people, when they make their sourdough, they mix them in how they fold it in. On that process I just did, they'll fold it together instead of this process. This is the way I like, because again, I'm low maintenance. This is easier for me. I just back to putting flour in. I save myself a little bit of cheese and a little bit of jalapenos, and I'll show you again why in a minute here. Okay. Okay. Now just take that. We're going to do the same thing we did with that first loaf. Scrape the edges. Put it down. Make that cheese real well incorporated. Put her on the old counter. Just start at one end. Work my way down. more you roll it and pat it and work it, the more you're building up them gluten strands and giving you that bread to rise ability that you want it to have. See how I got them little marbling of cheese in there? Okey-dokey. That's about gonna be it. That's probably more flour than we really even need. So I'll clean my counter up a little bit with a little flour. Just kind of roll it around, make it look nice. Get that old flour off your hands. Let's get my friend Pam. Pam, can you come in here and give us a hand, please? Yes. Thank you. Alrighty, now take that in, plop her in, give it a quick roll in our friend Pam. Right there. Now, cover that up. Now, what I like to do here is my little trick. I like to take these jalapenos, like this here, and make me a little design like that. Then I take a little bit of cheese here, and I put it in on top like that there. And then, after I bake this here bread, I'll put that on, flip it over on top and make a nice, beautiful design of cheese and jalapenos up on the top. So I put a little saran wrap on that. I put it in the refrigerator till we're ready to put it on the bread. All right, we'll be back here next time when it's time to give it a roll and a fold. See you in a few. All right, y'all, it's been about an hour, so it's time to do our first folding and stretching of these two pieces of dough. So the first thing I'm going to do, you notice it's a twofold reason. So I'm going to do me a nice hand washing, which I know is something a little bit unusual about the way I've been washing my hands right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash them, but I ain't going to dry them. I'm going to leave them wet. And this is going to help handle this dough. A little bit of moisture on your hands will help you get that dough from sticking. So this is our first dough. This is the one that's plain sourdough. And all I'm going to do is reach my wet hand in there and just stretch it all the way around, fold it in on itself, and then I'm going to grab a hold of it and just give it a little bit of a stretch. You know, just whatever works for you. I'll roll it into a little bit of a ball. I'm going to put him back in there. It's already getting sticky, but I'm going to risk it. All right, this is our cheddar and jalapeno. Now this one I wanted to mention earlier, this cheddar cheese that I put in this, you can put any types of cheeses or any kind of delicious items in here that you want. I like to do that cheddar and I like to shred it myself because if you get the pre-shredded cheese, it'll work fine, but they put a lot of anti-clumping agents in that, and I just like to have it as kind of pure as I can. All right, I rolled it over, stuck it. Now I'm going to put the lid up. The lid. These ain't very tight lids, is they? I'm going to put these bandanas back on. I'm going to leave it sit for another hour. I'll see you back here in 1 hour. All right, y'all, it's been 1 more hour, so we're going to do this little thing again. I want to show you. We do this a total of 3 times, and you ain't be holding to an hour. You can wait a couple hours or an hour and a half, you know, whatever works for you and your situation. We're just going to do that whole thing again. We're going to knock that air out of it. Not all air. Just roll it around, get it nice and just leave a little puff in it. Same on this side. Same thing we did last time. Just gives you a little bit of, I like to take the peppers and push them back down in there. Just let him go. We're going to do this 1 more time, about an hour from now, 2 hours from now, whatever works for you and your schedule. In the summertime, you're going to notice they're going to get real big and puffy in about an hour. In the wintertime, you can let it go 2-3 hours, go do something, run your errands, whatever you want between these rises. But again, I don't want this to be prohibitive for you. You do it whatever works on your schedule. This is your project on your schedule. You don't have to be sitting at home all day watching this bread rise and doing it every hour. So you give yourself a little bit of leeway. All right, I'll see you again in about an hour. All right, y'all, welcome back. It's been a 3rd rise. We're going to take this bread. We're going to put it in these special baskets. Now this is one of them times when I'm using some jazzy equipment that some of you all may not have. So one thing you can do, you can use these baskets to do your final rise. You can also take a piece of parchment paper, put your dough on the parchment paper, put it back into here, and then you can use that as a lifter and container for baking. What I like to do is I'll put this in these Banneton baskets and I'll let it rise in the refrigerator for a number of hours. Now this could be overnight, it could be 2 hours, 3 hours, 1 hour, whenever you're ready to bake it. That's when you want to take it out and bake it in the oven. So what I like, this gives you a lot of leeway to do whatever you want with your day or evening until you're ready to bake it, and then you go ahead and do it. So one of the secret weapons for our Banneton baskets here to keep that bread from sticking is we're gonna put some of this here special flour in there. Now, I ain't gonna show you what kind of flour it is, I'm just gonna leave you wondering. So I put a little bit of flour in here. And I like this, like I said, this special flour that's very, I don't know what's real fine flour, I guess is lack of a better word. If you live in the South, you've seen this flour for sure. Likely if you live in America, you've probably seen it. But it's good for thickening up gravies and that kind of thing. I just put a little bit of it around there just to keep that bread dough from sticking. Let me get one basket. That's my old basket. So he's seasoned. This is my newer basket. He's not quite seasoned up as much. I just put that, I mean, it ain't gonna hurt you to have a lot of flour in there, just wasteful, but otherwise it don't hurt nothing to have it in there, so you might as well do it. All right, I'll put my baskets back down here. Do my little tricky hand washing again. And here's what we're gonna do. So we just take this bread, take it out, just like we did the last time. I like to keep some air in it for this round, and then you just turn it upside down, put it in that basket. So I take that pinched top, just so it fits in there, and we let her rise. Again, you can do that same thing by just putting it on a parchment paper and putting it back in the bowl. This is my one with all the mix-ins in it. This is getting sticky. All right, now that I have those in the basket and ready to go, I'm gonna take me a little off-brand, what do you call that, plastic wrap. And my old friend, hello, come to me, that I get when I'm in trouble. Spray it. Woo. I put that on top of one of them. Now this is just my technique, you don't need to do this, but I would, no matter how, I would cover it in plastic wrap if you're gonna put it in the refrigerator and let it rise. If you're gonna rise it on the counter and just bake it in an hour from now, you probably don't need to plastic wrap it, but I like to just give it a little protection from the cold and from any, off odors that might be in your refrigerator. I got a whole mess of them snake's head fish in there just waiting for me to get up the courage to clean and eat them, so that refrigerator can be pretty messy. All right, then I put my bandanas on the top. And what I like to do is I got a couple of rubber bands here. I just around the top of that basket, snap them tight. Okay, these will go in the refrigerator, and this evening when it's time to bake, and right now where the dough Wrangler is living, it's pretty hot. Our local utility is really struggling with keeping us safe and keeping us in electrical power. So we're gonna run our oven later tonight when it starts to cool down. We're able to do it, and we'll do that video, and that will be our next step. So I'll see you again this evening. All right, y'all, welcome back. It's been about, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 hours. We've been rising this dough in the refrigerator. And as you can see, it's blowed up real nice and tall right here. This is the jalapeno one with the cheddar cheese. So I already took the bandana off the top, so it ain't robbing nobody. And now I just need to get that saran off. So I wanted to introduce you to a couple of little pieces of equipment here that are new to the Dough Wrangler family. One is this fancy item here. This is called a bread cloche, or a bread baking object. It's a dome with a pan on the bottom. So you can use one of them if you got one. If you're fancy like me, Mrs. Wrangler got me that one for Christmas. You can use one of those to cook your bread in, or you can use it you can cook it in a cast iron skillet, or a cast iron, Dutch oven, or you can cook it right on a pizza stone or even a baking tray in the oven. However, if you don't have a Dutch oven, if you do have a Dutch oven, you could use a piece of parchment paper for that final rise and just lift it and put it in that Dutch oven, put the lid on and cook it. If you don't have that, you could use a baking sheet or a pizza stone. Again, pretty handy if you have a piece of parchment paper underneath it just to handle it and manage it from the last rise. The other piece of equipment that we have here is this little slasher item. People call it a bread lame, a bread lame. I don't know how you pronounce it, L-A-M-E. Wrangler calls it a razor on a stick. This is what we use to slash the top of our bread to get it just how we want it when we're baking it. So the next step, of course, whatever you use to bake your bread in, you want to get that oven rip-roaring hot. So whatever that item is, cast iron skillet or cast iron Dutch oven or a bread lame or a bread close, whatever you got, you want to get it to 500 degrees. So you heat that oven up to 500 degrees, you pop her open, pull it out, take the lid off. Hopefully, I can get this sucker out of here. That flour is working wondrous, I hope. And this one ain't coming out too clean. That'll do. Now we use our slasher. Cut the top of it. Ooh, that's going to be a flat one. We'll see how it turns out in the end. Pop that back on it. Close her up. Now, turn that oven back down to 450 degrees. And you want to bake that in a falling oven. And then you hit that timer for 30 minutes. In 30 minutes, we'll come back to it. We'll take the lid off and we'll take another peek. See you in 30. All right, y'all, you will recall that when we left, we were just finishing up our 30 minutes of videoing, or of baking, and seems like Mrs. Wrangler did our video and left us on pause. So I just wanted to kind of catch you up where we are on this jalapeno cheddar bread. What we did is after the 30 minutes, we opened up the oven and we took this here lid off. And then I took that little bowl that we had made with cheese and jalapenos and turned it upside down on top of the bread so that we could let it crisp up and brown in there. And that's where we are right now. We're baking her for another 12 minutes. And as I said in that video, it's important that you test your own oven and see how your oven reacts. 12 minutes at 450 is the second bake with the lid off for me. For you, it might be 13, it might be 10. It's all dependent on how your oven does. But that's a little bit of stuff that you can do a little practicing. And like I said earlier in that video, I want to stress this should be fun for you. This should be something that you are enjoying. And if you're not, then you're doing something wrong. So just keep playing with it. The worst thing that could happen is you turn out a sorry loaf of bread. You'll have to eat that and move on. I also wanted to show you, this is our starter for Doris that we fed this morning. That's what she looks like when she's fully fed and ready for another week in the refrigerator. So I'll put her back in the fridge. We'll start back next week and we'll do the whole process over again. I'll see you back in 12 and we'll see how this bread turns out. All right, welcome back. After the fastest 12 minutes of all of our lives, we're down to 1 second. It's time to take this piece of this loaf of bread out and see what we've got our hands on. And then we'll pop the lid back on our bread close. Turn our temperature back up to 500. And get ready to bake our second loaf. So here's our finished product. This is not the puffiest loaf. This is not the puffiest loaf we've ever turned out, but it'll be a nice, solid jalapeno cheddar loaf of bread. We'll let it cool there, and we'll enjoy it tomorrow. I'll see you back here when this oven gets hot. All right, now y'all, we're back. The oven is back up to 500 degrees after baking that jalapeno cheddar loaf, and we are ready to put in our regular sourdough loaf. So here's what we're going to do. Same process. I'm going to just uncover the wrap off the top of it. I got my little slasher. Pull it out here. Giddy up. Pop her in there. Do a nice quick slash across the top. Without that, give her something to ride on. And we take her down to 450 again. 30 minutes of bake time, and I'll see you again in 30. right, now, welcome back, y'all. We're about to take this top off this here bread. We got about 10 more seconds. The 30 minutes is about done, so I'm gonna put on my protectors. I do have the calloused hands of a working man, but even that ain't gonna protect me from 450-degree heat. So make sure y'all taking care of yourselves and your hands. You wanna be able to live to make another loaf, right? All righty, let's take a look. It's been 30. We take the top off. We got a nice blowed up loaf, but you can see it's a little bit pale. So we take the top off, and we're gonna cook her again for 12 more minutes. Now after that 12 minutes, we'll take that loaf out and we'll take a look, and maybe later on we can take a little slice. I'll see you back here in 12. What's that I hear? Sweet sound of finished bread. Let's take a look. Here's what we got, y'all. A nice loaf. Puffy, delicious sourdough bread. Now you let that cool an hour or so. See how long it lasts in your house. You slice that up, you have you a treat. Sandwiches, bread, or soups, salads, you can do it. You make garlic bread out of it. That's your basic sourdough. You eat that however you like. But you enjoy it, and I want you to think of the old dough wrangler every time you take a nibble. A pleasure to see you. I'll see you back here next time. Bye, y'all. Somebody made a loaf of bread. Tasty.